This is Pastor Matthew J. Watts. I'm coming to you live from the Grace Bible Church pulpit, 600 Canora Boulevard West in Charleston, overlooking the beautiful and the scenic Canora River.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That's so good. Awesome, boy. Y'all got to know this so good. It's awesome.
John, you are the most Jackson, Mississippi person I've ever met.
I know it.
I'm just like,
I know it.
John.
I'm look. I'm gonna wear that badge with pride.
Bro,
too.
it's dope.
In surfing, there's a phrase called outgunned. Outgunned, like I don't have a big enough board. The waves are a little bigger than my equipment, and I'm just gonna be out here. My goal is to listen, to learn.
As a leader, that's probably the best thing you can say. If that's all you said today, you know what I mean? And help people to understand that we gotta listen and we got to empathize with one another, then we've said something profound. Welcome to another episode of Postulating Solutions with Preachers. I'm your host, John Perkins, and I'm here with the preaching pride of Charleston, West Virginia, Matthew J. Watts, and we have a wonderful, fantastic episode for you today because we have two special guests coming to you from the West Coast. I tell you, number one, I can't tell you enough. This one brother I met years ago in a conference at a conference, and met him, and this brother was spitting hot fire from the mic, and I said, this dude is operating totally at a genius level. I said, what's his name? They said this man's name is Propaganda. I said, man, I need to get to know this guy. We hit it off ever since. How you doing, Propaganda?
Wes, how y'all feeling, man? I'm good.
And also with us is a guy who needs no introduction. He's a surfer. He's also a musician. He writes a song every day. I mean, committed to his craft. A genius also in his craft. I'm telling you, this man is a lead singer of the band called Switchfoot. This is John Foreman, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, what's happening?
You ever been introed like that, John? I never been introed like this.
I hope we got a recording because I want to start every set like that.
You understand what I'm saying?
And you just gotta bring me to one or two cities and let me bring you out. That's what you gotta do. Let me bring you out.
I guess after introductions like that, they can't wait to hear what they have to say.
Yeah,
no.
But look, Pastor Watts, man, we've been having a blast doing this podcast, but also it's been very serious and very tense lately in our country. And we have been talking about justice actually from the very beginning. I mean, this is a justice podcast. We've been postulating solutions as preachers about justice, right? Particularly justice for the poor. And now it seems as if our subject, it seems as if what we're talking about has been thrust into the limelight. It seems as if what we are dealing with has been thrust into the limelight. And so I think it's time, Pastor Watts, for us to start to think about what it is that we can do to bring economic development, economic justice to bear. What do you think?
Well, you and I have been having conversation around this idea of postulating a solution of the HOPE 2020 economic justice and economic equity movement. And really trying to encourage people to kind of focus on all these resources that's come to the cities or the states under the CARE Act, and over $150 billion have come to states all over the United States of America, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and some of the island territories under the United States control. And what we're doing here in West Virginia, I think you're doing the same thing in Mississippi, basically is trying to create a movement to request that the governors of our state would set aside 20% of the $1.25 billion that West Virginia has received from the CARE Act funds. 20% of that, which would be $250 million. And then that money would be targeted at the census tracts in our state that have poverty rates at 20% or higher. So we have 486 census tracts. 220 of them have poverty rates 20% or higher because we're one of the poorest states in the union, similar to Mississippi. And that those funds would then be targeted to the census tracts, that's at the community level, to focus on building the place and the people in that place with the strategic initiatives that would be designed to address poverty and other social determinants of health, things like access to health care, community-based education initiatives, community development, workforce development, et cetera, at that level to where local nonprofit organizations and local small businesses would receive funds to really build an economic base within the community. And so we believe that it would make sense to do that with all these resources that's been allocated. And some states are having difficulty spending these monies because they've not had large outbreaks of COVID-19. And we think this is consistent with what the federal government has already did in the past, a couple of years ago when he passed the Tax Reform Act. And basically, which was a tax break for the wealthy, if they would bring resources that had overseas accounts, Cayman Islands, repatriate those monies back to the United States, invest them in census tracts at 20% poverty levels. They would then get a huge windfall in terms of reduction in capital gains tax. Plus, they were able to see returns on their investment. And maybe a poor person might get help through that process. So we think now is the time to bring attention to the issue of poverty in this country. Now is the time to bring attention to the need to invest strategically in the places and the people, place-based, people focus. And lastly, what I'm trying to suggest is that this money through the CARE Act, my great-grandchildren are gonna pay this money back. I mean, so yeah. I would like to see some of this money come into these communities where we start building equity in the community with nonprofits and individuals and so forth. And the last thing I'll say about that, John, is that our communities, and you and I have talked about this, they become economic transfer centers. And basically through the welfare program, monies are just coming to our neighborhoods. Yes, the people get some benefit, but the money fuels the local economy, goes back up the chain to the suppliers, to the distributors, to the manufacturers, to the stockholders, et cetera. And the people are no better off than what they were before the monies came. As has been the case with these checks that came into the communities. I'm sure the people needed that money, but the money really is just transferred through the neighborhood. There has to be some strategic investments into these distressed areas. If there is not, what you're going to find is after all this marching and all this demonstrating and all this protesting, and when people begin to realize that just trying to reform the police does not change the economic trajectory of the people or the place where they live, I think you're going to find a tremendous disenchantment and a tremendous frustration that's going to build up when people realize that they may not be much better off than what they were before. And this whole reform of police thing, though needed, it's going to take years. 19,000 police units around the country. It's a heavy lift. You got to start somewhere. But this is an incredible heavy lift. And at the same time, we got to do some other things. So,
look, Prop, you said you put out a post a little while ago said there was 10 things that people don't know about you.
Yeah.
And then I was showing someone who you were, and then as I was showing them who you were, there was it pulled up this, I mean, fantastic, I mean, absolutely fantastic spoken word piece that was about the 4th of July, and it covered the fact that there was a husbandman and the wife, and the husbandman oppressed the wife.
Yeah.
And now I get a sense and a feel that you are communicating such that the wife is supposed to fix the husband. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So the poem's called 20 Years. I love that you brought that up. And it's the idea of, I oftentimes think that like the best way for somebody to understand something that's either shocking or hard to swallow is to pull out from the topic and move it somewhere else. In the same way, like if you're a Bible reader, the same way same thing Nathan did to David. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me just step away from it for a second and look at it like this, So the idea is, it's a married couple who the husband's been abusing this wife for 20 years. Somehow she stays. He decides to stop. And let's just say he stopped. I'm going to be generous and say he stopped 20 years ago. Right. So it's 40 years later. Right. And now they're throwing some sort of wedding anniversary and they're inviting everybody they know. Right. And at this party, he's asking, since he stopped hitting her, to not bring up what happened before, because because it's over now. Let's talk about unity. Like, let's just be united. Right. Whereas but in no place in the story has he attempted to make that right. He just stopped doing it. Right. And if ever she causes trouble, somehow it's her fault. You know what I mean? Somehow she's holding on to the past. Like she's the problem, right? By not just being thankful for all the advances, right? So it's essentially, it's an allegory about race relations in America. You know what I'm saying? That like, okay, yeah, you stop. Yeah, slavery's over, but you act like I don't have dog marks all over my back and whips all over my back, and that I don't still feel them. You know what I'm saying? And every time you tell me I gotta shut up about it, it just reopens that wound. You know what I'm saying? Where all of us would think that it's ridiculous to tell this wife to just shut up and smile, right? We all think that's ridiculous, right? So I don't understand why you don't think that's ridiculous with an entire people group, So ultimately, what I'm trying to say is like, you want me to just celebrate this? You want me to just celebrate this country, and you know what I'm saying, and just act like everything's all right when everything's not all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, yeah, you stop hitting me, but the scars ain't gone, and you haven't done anything to try to make right the last 20 years. So that's the kind of the point I'm trying to make. But to the next part of that is like, to take that a step further is like, is it the wife's job to now put her husband in through counseling and teach him what he's done wrong?
Come on.
Right. And then to coach him to healing, like that's abusive also. Right. So like at some point the husband got to do the work. Right. You have to do the work. So I guess ultimately that's what I'm saying to like the power structures of America. Like, look, man, you can't, the phrase I always go to is like, you can't expect me to describe the smell of your boot leather while it's on my neck. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? You know what you have done, and you know what you have lived off, the successes that you have gained. You know it's wrong. You know it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need me to tell you. Like, why are we, in a lot of ways, I'm like, especially going back to, what Pastor was saying about economic, disparities and different, like, this is wrong. You don't need me to explain this. Why are we playing this game that you think we both know what you're doing? You putting this in our pocket just to get it right back. I'm not stupid, and you're not stupid. Why do we keep playing this? Like
prop. You, John. This brother operated at genius level. I already told you that. I mean, we know that. You defund the police has become this mantra today, and as a matter of fact, I mean, the police has been militarized, right? And the military has been called on these American citizens today. I mean, this has been something big, but you used as an analogy, as an example, the cereal. Tell our listeners, give us the cereal example, please.
So cereal example is this. Let's just say you got a big old bowl of Cheerios, right? And
yes, sir.
Let's just pretend like the Cheerios is a city budget, right? And then you got other cups, and you take from that cereal bowl of Cheerios and you divvy them up into different cups, right? So you got one cup is housing, one cup is education, one cup is parks, one cup is sanitation, whatever the case may be. And then, but the lion's share is for policing. And if we're looking at Los Angeles, that's what I'm talking about. Like $3 billion is the police budget, right? Now, that makes sense if you expect the police to do all the things that they're doing, right? But but a lot of the things that the police are doing, not only are they not equipped to do, they're not trained to do, and they shouldn't have to do in the first place, right? So, so why are we giving, the old saying, like, if all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail. So if it's the police job to handle all these different things, then of course we're going to see what we're seeing. So you take this big old bowl of Cheerios that is the police budget, and you go, is it really okay? So when you see someone, there's a violation because somebody's loitering. Well, that person might be homeless, right? California, homelessness is like, I mean, we lead the world, you know what I'm saying? Or we lead the nation in homelessness. So if you send in a cop, I mean, where's the guy gonna go? He homeless. You know what I'm saying? So maybe you take some of that money and you invest in affordable housing. Now that's off the cop's plate, right? And now there's money for that. Now you don't have to come do that, right? If we're having sort of domestic disputes, maybe you don't need a cop, you need a therapist, right? So you take that money and you send trained therapists, right? And we train therapists in that situation. Now you've just already de-escalated the things. You take some of the money and you say, okay, I know a lot of the stuff when I got in trouble when I was in high school, I was just bored. You know what I'm saying? So you after school and it's like, hey, I bet you I could steal that PS4 out of this fool's house without him noticing. Like, I'm not a thief. I really don't need it. I'm probably going to put it back. I'm just bored. I'm going to write my name on the wall because I'm bored. You know what I mean? So how about you take that money that is going to give me a ticket and put me on the gang injunctions, right? And now I got a criminal record as a juvenile. Rather than that, just how about some after school programs? Now the cop is not dealing with like little stupid kids that I know from in my life. I was more afraid of my mama, you know what I'm saying, finding out I got in trouble than anything else. So all you had to do, all that cop could have to do is just like, whoop, whoop, I'm going to tell your mama, I'm running home. You understand what I'm saying? You ain't got to tie me up because I'm scared of my mama. You know what I'm saying? So, so
wait, look, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me finish. So what that does is it's like this cop is tired and he overworked and he pissy and he got a short fuse because he overworked. He doing stuff he ain't supposed to do. So it already is proven that these programs make the city safer, right? You have less interaction with the police, right? Therefore, less chances of violence, right? And then now you leave the officers to do what they trained to do, and they ain't got this surplus of money to buy tanks and automatic weapons because you ain't got the money for it and you don't need it. So that's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, on last episode, we talked about just how many people who are in prison, 74% who have not committed the crimes that they commit.
Yeah.
And then 1 out of 4 are in there with mental illness and need help. Really in there with sickness and things of that sort.
Yeah.
And we'll post these things. We'll post these things in the show notes, and hopefully,
Yeah.
Prop, you'll give us permission to post some of these things, to hit
For
some of these
sure.
links, or what you're sharing in the
I
show
just would
notes
say,
as
like,
well.
absolutely, like how preposterous it is if your daughter, just think about how preposterous this is. Your daughter has a cold, right? And she's coughing, and you're like, why didn't you do the dishes? And she goes, well, because I have a cold. And then you go, well, you're grounded for not doing the dishes. And you're like, what? Did you just ground her for, she's sick though? Like, I don't understand why you think punishing her is gonna get the dishes done. That doesn't make any sense. So, just like you said, if somebody is not well, why do you think criminalizing? That's it's just not even logical, you know?
Right.
So when you hear things like, yo, there's reform, there's defunding, and then there's complete reimagining, right? What we're talking about is a complete reimagination, because for some reason, it's not like you should be more gentle to people that have mental issues when you put them in jail. No, they shouldn't go to jail. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, reimagine this.
Right. That's what Pastor Watts has been saying, and that's what I have been rebuttaling and co-signing from Pastor Watts. He's been sharing that, hey, this is just really a reimagining of how we police in this country. You want to address that, Pastor Watts, quickly?
No, I think he did it extremely well.
Thank you.
We've got to decide how we're going to handle people that are hurting, as propaganda pointed out. But also, at a lot of this is employment opportunities, that if we create an employment opportunity for every able-bodied person that wants to work, that in itself is therapeutic. That in itself gives a person, a purpose, a meaning, a reason for getting up. And there'll be a lot less crime and a lot less interaction with law enforcement if we had a commitment to full employment. But we don't have a commitment to full employment. So we end up trying to manage what I call the surplus of undereducated and underskilled labor. We no longer need them in the military, right? Because our military is a fraction of what it was 50, 60 years ago. 1.5 million people in the military now versus 3.5 million people at the height of the Vietnam conflict. We no longer need them in manufacturing, because our manufacturing is a fraction of what it used to be. $20 million, 20 million people in the 60s, now probably maybe 12. And so we got a surplus of people that we don't have a place to deploy them to do work. And so we have created the prison industrial complex as a way of being able to manage and control this surplus of labor. We made a commitment some years ago to defund mental health institutions. And so the prisons are also, and law enforcement is picking up on that. So I agree with everything that is said, but we're going to find that a lot of these problems cannot be addressed until we have a commitment to full employment. And if it means the government has to hire people, it will be much cheaper than what we're currently doing. And we keep talking around that. Last week, they did a big expose here in Charleston, West Virginia, and they came and interviewed me, and they said, Reverend Watts, why do you think all those young men are standing over there on 3rd and Bream? And why are they on Stockton the 2nd? Why are they just standing over there? And I said, that's probably the simplest answer to that question that I could imagine. He said, what is it? I said, they have nowhere else to be.
Simple.
No, they have nowhere else to be. No one expects them to be anywhere else. No one is waiting for them to come to do something that they need to have done. So they're trying to find meaning with each other. And what they have is the fellowship of each other in that corner until the police comes and runs them off of it, or find some reason to have to search one of them and find something to take them to jail. Men and women need meaningful things to do. If they don't have something meaningful to do, then they're going to get into something that is not healthy for them and not healthy for the society.
There's no better voice in this country on prison reform, the prison industrial complex, the 100-Year War on drugs, then Pastor Matthew Watts. We really got to get this brother's voice out there. And this is one of the reasons Postulating Solutions with Preachers is alive, is because we got to get this brother's voice out there. Brother John Foreman.
Hey,
is that the John Foreman? Is that the John Foreman?
The John.
That's the John Foreman. Listen. John, the story is told that you were about done wrapping up this album. As you wrapped up this album, they said, "Oh, cut! It's a wrap. Good job, guys." And then you said, "Nah. I got one more." And you went into the closet, and you had been reading this book at every break. And you went into the closet, and you started writing some stuff down. You said it came to you pretty quickly, about 10, 15 minutes. And you came back out and said, "Follow me, fellas." And out came this song called The Sound, the John M. Perkins Blues. And you know, my grandfather, Dr. John M. Perkins, celebrated 90 years on yesterday. He's 90 years old on yesterday. And so I guess I'm asking you, what possessed you to go back in there and write that song that became such a hit?
That's pretty much the story. Yours plays out better than the reality. It sounds like a movie, you know.
Oh yeah. We got to write the film, right? Write it in a script.
Yeah, it was.
Go ahead.
Pretty much like that. And I had been reading "Let Justice Roll Down," your grandfather's book memoir about his experience, and it, you know, as a songwriter, you're always looking for stories. You want to tell a good story. I love a good story, and we were making this record, and I'm thinking to myself, this story is a story that needs to be told, and I got a guitar right here, and we got a microphone. We need to tell this story, you know, and so it happened really fast. And then I had been given the book by a friend of mine, Charles Marsh, who also knows your grandfather. He teaches at UVA, and he's given me some incredible books over the years, but none of them had inspired me like this story of forgiveness in a way that just felt, like I said, it felt like this transcendent gift that defies human explanation, to be able to forgive your oppressors, to forgive your enemies, to forgive the very people that are trying to steal your life from you, you know. And so that was the inspiration for the song, and that was the story that I mean, we played that song all over the world. We've played it, you know, Japan, Australia. We've opened for Bon Jovi playing that song in Europe, you know. I mean, it's just, I feel like when we play that song, it feels like I can feel like I'm hugging your grandpa, bringing him on stage for that moment, you know.
Yeah, you were able to share words of justice. You were able to create a stream of justice with that song. And now it just seems like you wrote a post a couple weeks ago, and it said something like, "America, who are you?" Right? Why is it that you feel, and I know this term, you know, because I get to hang out with you every now and then, you know what I mean? I know this surfing term, you know what I mean? Most brothers in the hood, like where I am, Y'all need to know where I'm at. I'm in the hood, y'all. My studio is in the hood. Yeah, but anyway, most brothers where I am don't know no serving term like outgunned. Why is it that you feel outgunned? You know what I mean? Why is it that we have to ask the question, America, who are you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel, well, especially in this conversation right here, like I said on the phone earlier a couple times, I feel honored to be invited to the conversation, but I'm here to listen. I feel like, I mean, I got a million questions. I'm going to aim like 400,000 at, Pastor Watts, if I could.
That's right. That's right.
and yeah, I think for me, we've written a bunch of songs. We've had Lecrae on a track, talking America, who are you? And I feel like that is a question. It's an open-ended question that we are defining with every breath that we breathe as a nation. We are entering into a new time where we are defining ourselves. We are not defined by a monarchy or a king's decision. So we, the people, are making the choices. And my hope is that we can rise above who we've been. And my fear is that the heart of man is deceitfully wicked above all things. And that gives me pause, because I know that it's a bunch of hearts of men that are making the laws, And so, yeah, that's why I feel like conversations like these are so imperative to move forward. And I do think that music and art has an opening into culture that very few things do. Sport has that same ability to start a conversation. And I want to take advantage of the platform I've been given to talk about the stories that matter most to America.
Man, that's you hitting the nail right on the head. As we talk about music, I mean, what you're doing, what propaganda is doing, transcends culture, and it creates culture. It creates the culture of the day, and it also communicates to the society what is being felt from the people of the culture. And that's why the songs are being played. The songs are being played because it's communicating, hey, this is communicating how I feel. This is communicating what I feel like. And when those things are able to happen, man, wow. I mean, just like you and I were sharing over text, hey, if that brother in Atlanta, and I want any one of y'all to address this, right? And maybe all of y'all to address it, right? Very quickly. But if that brother in Atlanta had been fell asleep to the ball game on Monday Night Football, playing on his radio, and the officers came up and they tapped him tapped him on the window, and they rolled down the window and they said, Matt Ryan is dropping back to pass, and Julio Jones is going to the corner, and he throws a ball to the corner of the end zone, and Julio Jones reaches above his hand, touchdown. And they all would have said, yes, sports transcends race. So quickly, they would have put down their guns. It probably wouldn't have been a fight. Am I making sense? Talk to me, somebody. I'm like Farrakhan today. Talk to me.
Let me see if I can jump in, John. I want to sort of piggyback on something Brother John Foreman said. Mm-hmm. Is that I agree 100% that sports and music are the two international language that transcends, national boundaries in music. But one, I think, can take you deeper into dealing with reality and dealing with real life and force you to do some introspective thinking because of the lyrics and because of the words. And I think the other one takes you away from reality. It takes you to fantasy land, to fantasy island.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. It takes you to fantasy. And that's why these people are so upset at LeBron James. Wait a minute. Shut up and dribble. I mean, you make us feel good. We're happy when y'all playing sports. We don't want y'all to think and to challenge and to push back. And that's what.
Don't say nothing to me.
Yeah, that's why they called it the great baseball was the American pastime when I was a kid growing up. You guys don't remember that, but it was a game you sit around and pass time and talk and whatever. But sports has created a false reality that we gather society based on meritocracy.
Yes.
It's a false reality that's based on equality, right?
It's
an illusion. We create this grand illusion. And now for the first time, because athletes like LeBron James and like Colin Kaepernick starting to speak up. We're human beings. We're African American men. We feel the pain of our people. And though we may have been placed on this elevator and this conveyor belt to be moved away from our people because of our athletic prowess, we've been treated differently. We're different from the brother on the corner on the street because of our athleticism. And we've been living in this denial for some time. Michael Jordan, all those guys, right, in a state of denial. Tiger Woods, O.J. Simpson, they had transcended, right?
I'm not black.
I'm not
I'm
black.
OJ. Okay.
One of the most powerful, one of the most powerful things I've ever heard in my entire life, right, was when they did the series on O.J. Simpson. And when the police officers were recounting what happened when he'd been on the chase and he comes back home, right? And now he sees all of those people that's near his where he lives. And what was that called? Rockin'? What's the name of the place where he lived? I can't remember right off.
The city, Brentwood?
Yeah. Brentwood, yeah.
Yeah, where OJ lived. His house
Brentwood.
was.
Oh, his
Brentwood.
house. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what he says to the police, what they quote him as saying, he says, what are all these Negroes, he didn't say Negroes, doing in Brentwood?
Yeah.
That's what he says, right? Because he didn't see himself, right, as an African-American person. Yeah, so that's anyways, I'll start right there.
I wanted to jump in there too and talk about, like, a lot of times I feel like sports in a lot of ways and in music in some ways, or at least like celebrity different than music, but because the music itself, like, is pushing the narrative, but like celebrity, I don't think it transcends, but it flattens race. You know what I'm saying? So it makes these athletes and these artists personless, like they're race-less. You know what I'm saying? So, like, what's the name? Like Saturday Night Live did that skit a while back when Beyonce performed at the Super Bowl, and it was just like they nailed it. Like this whole skit about America realizing that Beyonce was black. Like when she did her performance with all the Black Panthers and stuff, it was the most amazing thing. They were just like, "Oh my God, Beyonce's black," because you never thought about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's because celebrity has a way of flattening race. You know what I'm saying?
That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Which goes back to, again, like the whole LeBron James things, where it's like, oh yeah, I forgot you were a black man in America. I thought you were LeBron James, and LeBron James is going, what? Wait, I don't, huh? You know what I'm saying? So that and then why
my house in Brentwood, right?
You understand what I'm saying? So why somebody like Jay-Z made the line about in 444 about O.J. Simpson when he said, which was it said it all. Like he said, O.J. be like, I'm not black, I'm O.J. Then he goes, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. You know what I'm saying? And because so when you look across the table at somebody that starts believing, what this system, what this capital system, like you said, this myth of meritocracy is telling you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You look over it again, like even within the sport, you could look at Mike Vick and be like, I know they hung that man to dry. You know what I'm saying? And they was trying to tell that man he wasn't a quarterback. Why? Because he's black. You know, I'm like, how you like, I thought I just had to be good at the job. He had to prove he was, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
so
he had to be oh my goodness,
exceptionally good. So they're punishing the man because he was athletic, because he was fast and he could run. Mean he ain't smart enough to be a quarterback. I'm like, you see that man's
because
cannon?
because he was the greatest thing you ever seen.
They ain't never seen nothing like it. And it was like, well, you're not supposed to be that smart. You ain't supposed to be that smart. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Because again, it flattens until it's inconvenient, right? And then once it's inconvenient, right? Once like and John, you know, in a lot of ways, I know you experienced it. Like you start making these songs that are highlighting black voices. You mean it like I know, John, in a lot of ways. Now we not necessarily in the same industry, but we kind of move in the same circles. You understand what I'm saying? I know you got uninvited to stuff. You know what I'm saying? You right? You think I don't know that? You feel me? It works both ways. It's like, John, I don't know, man. You're kind of pushing, you know, because again, you're supposed to be a product.
Right.
You're supposed to be a product, you know?
And so whenever we play the sound, we have footage in the verses, and we made a music video of the whole thing, and it's civil rights unrest, like footage of the cops and like different really poignant moments that kind of matches with the music. And at the time, 10 years ago, this felt really different than what you were seeing on the TV. You know, like you weren't seeing this kind of footage very often. I mean, of course, every now and then you're seeing things flare up, but it felt very unlike what we're seeing right now on TV all the time. And the last week, which felt like a decade, it felt like it was the oddest thing for me was playing that footage whenever we'd play it in like Canada or Australia, because it would show like the American flag and this imagery, and it felt like I was bringing American baggage into the party, where they're like, we came here to have a good time. What you guys got your problems, but you guys leave them when you enter our country. You know, like I don't know. It was a very strange thing. Even just, you know, you play it in America, it felt like, okay, this is a poignant moment. Let's talk this through. Maybe this can change our perspective. But it was very strange in Australia in particular. I remember this one moment just looking out and feeling like the audience is like, you guys got to sort that out. You know, you guys deal with your stuff.
Yeah, I played a gig in New Zealand, and they were kind of like, you know, after, you know, a lot of the organizers after the performance, like kind of asking me like, hey, how come America can't figure this out?
Yeah.
Like, why is it still a problem with y'all? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we move this energy towards economic justice? Because the fact remains, and what we're arguing is that welfare in this country just keeps the status quo, right? This is what Pastor Watts is arguing. This is what I'm saying in regards to the fact that, hey, the poor is getting poor, if anything. But hey, it just keeps there to be a safety net to make sure that people don't drop below a certain point. But how do we perpetuate and change the trajectory in regards to the laws being changed, right? In the state that I'm living in, it's the second highest incarceration in the whole nation. the laws are not just. How do we perpetuate this on a national level?
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's the that's the question of the centuries, right? Like, you know, I have this a level of cynicism in the not a hopelessness, but of cynicism in the sense of like, I can imagine what we could be. So I'm kind of frustrated that we're not that already. So like that sort of cynical, like the looking forward cynical, the prophetic imagination cynical, you know what I'm saying? Um, and in that I know, and I'm always prepared that the Empire will always strike back. Hello, Star Wars. The Empire always strikes back, and the Empire will always protect its bag. So bag being its money. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna secure its bag at all times, at all points. At the end of the day, you start talking about money, it's gonna protect its money. So in my mind, pressure comes, I feel like change comes when, one, we're prepared for the Empire to strike back and have a response, right? And two, when we start actually really using the power we have to pull those purse strings, in my mind. Now, to be more specific, I know in California how much power we have locally, you know what I'm saying, of like, you know, right now, if you ask me who's the LAUSD superintendent, I'm embarrassed. I have no idea, but I voted them in. You know what I'm saying? Right? You know, these are open meetings. Our city council meetings, they're open to the public. You know what I'm saying? So like when I start talking about, okay, it's real simple. Here's y'all's budget. It's open. You do this, or we not paying our property tax. It's pretty simple. You know what I'm saying? Like you put this person in power, right? Or I'm pulling my kids and putting them in a different district. I understand you get $4,000 a day every time my child is at school. Every time my child clicks here, you get $4,000. It's real easy for me to look at my neighbor who don't speak English, right? And I start talking to my neighbor in Spanish and start telling him, hey, this is the situation. This is what they're doing to us in our community. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pull our kids from LAUSD. I will help in the transportation of these children because I got a big enough car, right? We're going to go over there to the Monterey Park School District because Monterey Park is divvying the money right. You know what I'm saying? It's only 10 minutes the other way, right? So I could either go 10 minutes this way and give y'all $20,000 or 10 minutes this way and give my $20,000 to a district that's listening to me. So in my mind, it's like there's the basic part of, you know, fighting with our votes and fighting with our wallets, you know what I'm saying? And then at the same time, I think that the approach of like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let's keep this energy, stay in the streets. You ain't gonna get no rest. Nobody gets rest. You can't just walk into like nobody gets rest, you know? Right now, like I'm showing up, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep showing up in the streets. You're gonna keep having these outrage. You're gonna keep having these protests, right? Until I see some real changes, you know what I'm saying? And once fools start seeing like right now, I'm gonna get super federal. And I know it's a lot of words, but I'm like, okay, I ask myself, why do politicians continue to toe the line, like partisan wise, right? And it's, you know what I'm saying? Like if you take, for example, a Republican senator, if you will, I'm just going to pick on them because they're easy to pick on, but you take a Republican senator, right, who's knows for a fact that the law he finna vote for is unjust. And the words coming out of his president's mouth are ridiculous. Knows for a fact, right? And I know because I've lobbied on Capitol Hill. You know what I'm saying? That where it's like, I know they don't like it. You know what I'm saying? Why he won't speak up is because it would cost him too much. It would cost me too much to say something, right? So if I know that's how you work, then what can I do as a community to make it cost you too much to not say something? You know what I'm saying? Like do the economics, right? At some point, you got to leave Capitol Hill and come back to your district, right? And if we make it very difficult in your district, you understand what I'm saying, to continue to hold that seat, if you keep your mouth shut, right, then now I'm going to start, this is transactional. Like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't have to like my senator. I ain't got to like him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't finna, like, babysit my children. You have a job to do. I need you to do this for us. And now, I'm a young gun. Like, I let the OG talk. You know what I'm saying? But in my mind, it feel like pressure. I'm like, okay, because I see politics like gangbanging. And I hate to say it, but I just feel like that's what politics is. It's just gangbanging in nice suits. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, if it's just gang, okay, I need to make it more dangerous for you.
You see politics as gangbanging. First time I ever heard that was.
It's just gangbanging.
It's just
you know
gangbanging.
I mean, think about it for a second. Y'all just you gangbanging, right? It's like, you know what? In the same way that, like, if I know for a fact my big homie is talking real reckless, getting us all in trouble, I'm not going to speak up. That's the big homie. You know what I'm saying? Now, when he get home, you feel me? When he get home, I might light him up. But in public, I'm going to check him when we get home. But in public, I'm like, nah, that's my dog. Stay off him. That's my dog. You know what I'm saying? If he get us all in a fight, you understand what I'm saying? Like, because he mouthing off to the enemy, I'm going to have to get up and fight. I'm mad at him, but I'm not going to not fight.
But more than likely, he the big dog, so he ain't
What am I going to say? What am I going to say? Like, if he go, hey, they talking crap about us, I'm like, nah, brother, they talking crap about you. You were the one that opened your mouth. But I guess we gotta go scrap. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, I guess we gotta turn it over to the old dog.
Yeah,
the old lion. Let the lion roar one more time.
Is that me and John Norman? John Foreman, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, let's hear John.
Man, the more I unpack this, I feel like there's so many levels. I mean, we're touching on the political, economic, spiritual. There's years and years of history of racism and you know, these are issues that I think a lot of it, when you're talking about some form of prejudice, you're talking about a prejudgment that a lot of times is happening at a psychological level that is even undetectable to the person that it's happening to. And then to make matters worse, obviously we don't know what we don't know. I don't know what I don't know. I'm operating out of my own ignorance, thinking I'm knowing. But the fact is, even in my unknowing, I'm threatened by new ideas, that I have a natural psychological tendency to engage in fight or flight when I'm confronted with a new idea. So I feel like that's what Twitter is. It's a bunch of people confronted with new ideas that are engaging with fight or flight. And it's just like a bunch of grenades thrown across a wall. And I'm listening to the wisdom of, you know, Prop and Pastor Watts and you, John, and I'm wondering how do we communicate this wisdom to the next generation? As a Christian, I see everyone, you know, all across the nation is equally deserving of the truth. And then as a voter, I want the truth out there even more, because these are votes that are powerful, and so that my hope is that by amplifying your voice, you know, Pastor Watts, and by having these conversations that we can actually move forward into an understanding that is better than what we've been through. I mean, that is my goal. I do think it comes to the heart level, and at that point, as a believer, I have to say, all right, I've got to get on my knees, because as much as I want to point the finger at everyone else, like, it has to start right here, and this needs transformation as much as anything.
Good word.
Excellent. if I could summarize, 401 years in just a marvelous economy of words, I think we might be to understand that where we are now is a natural trajectory of where one would think you would end up if you start off and make the decision to put people in chattel slavery. And so what I mean by that is that once you enslave a group of people, you should not do it unless you decide it's going to be into perpetuity. We will never let them be free or their children because of the consequences and the collateral damage that's created. Let me kind of unpack this. The great Thomas Jefferson, right, said that slavery was like holding a wolf or fox by the ears. He says it's a dangerous proposition. He said you can't hold on to it forever, but you can't let it go. It's too dangerous. And he saw the dilemma, right? And that's why he wrote in letters to friends that if there's a God in heaven, we're going to pay for this. So now think about this. So once you start this trajectory, the value of Black people in America was established very early, and their value was tied to their labor. And they had value as laborers, as the economic drivers of the economy. So Black people have always had value because of their labor. And so as you move the economy from agrarian, as you move the economy from agrarians to industrial, where you still need a lot of labor, as you got a lot of labor going in coal mines, working in rock quarries, you're building roads, you're building things like that, labor was valued. We decided to get in every war that we possibly could. There's always been a place to deploy Black labor. And that's what people don't understand. There's always been a place to deploy. The whole criminal justice system in America was established to manage and to control the labor of slaves. The fact that they feared that we free these people will never be able to control them. That's why in the same amendment, the 13th Amendment that freed slavery, there's always an exception clause. The slavery has never been abolished in America. 13th Amendment basically says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude is allowed in the United States or its territories except for the punishment of a crime when the person is duly convicted. That's in the United States Constitution. So the first time that slavery is mentioned in the United States Constitution, the first time it's actually mentioned, it's abolished in the first clause. It is then legalized in the second clause. And therefore, the government said that we will never end slavery. And people don't understand that. The United States government said we will never end it. So we will use slavery as a form of punishment. And that's why in the South, after Reconstruction, they reestablished slavery under the name of conflict leasing, Slavery by Another Name, Douglas Blackman's book. You understand, if you really understand this, and so this was always about controlling the labor of Blacks. So after slavery, there was still a need to deploy Blacks in the South because the South had to be rebuilt. Lands need to be farmed, sharecropping, exploitation. There's need for large military. Black people have been enrolled and have died in every war at a disproportionate rate. But what I'm trying to tell you, the problem there, the dilemma in the 21st century, all the shoes have been shined, all the cotton has been picked, all the coal has been mined. It needs to be mined by pick and shovel. We now got robots and we got machinery mechanization. We got drones. We don't need people to go and die in wars. The problem is that Black people are no longer valued because their labor is no longer a premium in this country. And we got people wanting to immigrate from this country all over the world. We got the worst dilemma in the history of any civilization, to have a free society where everybody's supposed to have equal protection under the law, and to have people that are the descendants of slaves that have been stigmatized and have been discriminated against and have been despised by the society. This is where we got on our hands. And that's why I'm saying what we need to be pushing for is full employment. Full employment. We had it in 1619. We had it in 1700. We had full employment for Black people as slaves. And what we need today is full employment. And until you get to full employment, you're gonna have a problem in this country because the whole prison system is designed to manage the surplus labor of Black people and poor white people. And that's who's in prison. blacks and poor whites and a growing number of brown people.
Yeah.
We're complicating this, thinking it's something other than that. That is simply distilling this thing down to the fact, what do we do with this surplus of people that we really no longer need to drive the economy? But we do need, what we need is, we need work for people we didn't send to college to get criminal justice degrees, right? So we need so people used to work in plants and in factories, and we don't need them in plants and factories anymore in the military. So now they are the people that work in the prisons, and the people that are inmates, we don't need them. Let me distill this down. With this one little, we're a small state, United States, in West Virginia, a very small state, right? Only less than 1.8 million people in our state. Our prison population has quadrupled, right, over the last 30 years, even though our population has shrinked. The size of the population shrink, and our crime rate, we still have the 8th lowest crime rate in the nation. We don't have a very high crime rate. But what has happened is we've lost over 52% of our manufacturing jobs over that period of time. And we mine more coal out of the ground per capita than anywhere else in the state and world, but we do it with a fraction of the men that was in the coal mine when my dad and my granddad were coal miners. So in West Virginia, small state, but for our small state, our prison population went from 1,500 people in 1970 to over 7,000 people today, another 3,000 in the regional jail, another 700 or so in juvenile justice. We got about 12,000 people that's under correctional control. But watch this. There are 4,004 employees. 4,004 employees in the Western Department of Corrections, Regional Jail, and Juvenile Justice. One employee for every 4 people, every 3 people. You can look at your state, that's what you're gonna find.
Dang.
So we're creating jobs for this group of people over here because we don't have anything for them to do. So everybody talk about prison reform, ending mass incarceration. Okay, shut down all the prisons. What you gonna do with all the inmates for number one? Where are they gonna go? What they gonna do? And what are you gonna do with all of the people that are working in the system? This is an economic conundrum, but no one wants to clearly articulate that. What we have is an economic conundrum, a surplus of people that the economy no longer needs. We got to manage them to try to minimize how much destruction they cause to society. We're also using as a part of a form of birth control because we lock these young men up. During all these years, they will be the most productive in terms of producing children. This thing has far-reaching consequences. It's worse than slavery. And I told Michelle Alexander that. It's worse than Jim Crow, right? This is worse than slavery, and it's worse than Jim Crow.
Wow.
What we have created in this country with the prison industrial complex, because it destroys families perpetually year after year, year after year, and it basically incarcerates a whole family and whole neighborhoods. So you look at places like West Jackson, west side of Charleston, some of these cities, you look at the number of people that's already got felony convictions, so they're partial citizens. They're locked into underclass permanently. Their children are locked in the underclass permanently. And I'm not gonna say it's impossible, it's nearly impossible for you to pray your way out of it, fast your way out of it, preach your way out of it. It is an economic conundrum. And that's why I believe that the church should be lifting up its voice, as Dr. Perkins says, you know, the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof. The resources are put on this earth for everybody to benefit from those resources.
Amen.
And people are supposed to be able to work with their hands, with their minds, and carve out a livelihood. And we need to be demanding full employment for everybody who want to work and everybody's able to work. And that's where we have to start, I believe. If we start right there, everybody who wants to work and can work and is able to work, we're going to put them to work, not giving them a check for doing nothing. The last thing I'll say is, isn't it amazing? If I go down there and I act like my IQ is 40 and limping and boy, they'll give me a check. They're going to diagnose me with something wrong with me. They will give me a check for doing nothing, right? And we got parents who want their children to be diagnosed with a learning disability so they can get an SSI check, right? Now, I'm not criticizing the parent. The system is so messed up, right?
Incentivized, yeah.
It incentivizes that. The system works against those single mothers who try to get a low degree and want to get a better job. They're going to start taking the benefits before they can get on their feet. So it de-incentivizes them working. Full employment, everybody who's able to work, everybody want to work. Let's put people to work in communities and neighborhood. Let's start valuing stuff that's important. Let's start paying coaches, little league coaches, who coach and mentor our children, who take care of our kids. Let's train them to do it, and let's realize that's a valuable service they're providing to the community. Let's pay them to go into schools and mentor kids and tutor kids, because they got the skill to do that, and it's something that's really important. We don't value the people with skills in our community that is a skill that is important. We don't value them to make sure the person gets paid to do it. I mean, I've studied this so long in my neighborhood, and I know that we could do better than what we're doing if things don't have to be the way they are. But the system is so designed to keep us the way we are by keeping men from working and forcing them into some clandestine. I got young guys over here. In our state, in West Virginia, if you can't pay your child support, they put you in jail.
Going to jail. That's the same in
LA.
LA.
You're going to jail. I mean, you're going to go to jail.
They taking your driver's license. They take your driver's license. You can't register your car. You go to jail. So now you can't work. So like,
you lost your car.
Yeah.
You lost your license. It's a war against these young guys. And people think that they're all just shiftless and lazy and don't do anything. I'm telling you, a lot of these brothers out on the corner, they're slinging drugs, man. They don't take care of their kids. Yeah. They don't take care of their children, to make sure their children have the things that they need. And most of them not making that much money. They get, I'm not condoning what they're doing, but I would do it before my kids went hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
there's literally nothing to add to what he said. That was amazing.
Right.
Except for this, like,
man,
yeah,
he just threw down the gauntlet.
That's exactly. I was like, let the OG talk. And I will say this, like what he said, like if you just think pragmatically and you're a hood kid, it's like, well, my school's the worst performing school in the, you know what I'm saying? My school don't perform well. I'm not finna get accepted to college. I already got this, strike because stupid me just being a kid was like, I stole an orange out of the liquor store. You know what I'm saying? You tried me as an adult, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a black dude. You feel me? Right? Logically, the only thing to do is sell drugs. This is the most logical thing to do,
It's the only economy left for me.
Yep.
The economy that's left. Prop, give me one line. Now, Pastor Watts is used to me putting him on the spot, but Prop, give me one line to close us out and give us some hope.
Okay. All of the infrastructures of our society are really just made up. They don't exist in nature. So if we made them up and they're bad ideas, let's make up better ideas.
Good stuff, Doc. Good stuff. Yeah. Hey. I'm asking the switchfoot himself, John Foreman. I'm asking the man who I seen him switch from 3 guitars and 1 song. That's all that in a bag of chips. Give me one line that gives us some hope.
Oh. Yeah, I've been looking for hope. If I'm honest with you guys, it's been a really hopeless time for me. I have been looking for hope myself, and I feel like my hope has to be found not in policy, not in Washington, not in any of that, but my hope is in the Redeemer and his love for his kids. And no matter how messed up this system, as Prop said, that we've made up, is that he is my hope.
That's good stuff. Pastor Watts, really quick. Give me some hope. Get us out of here. Give me some hope.
I think my hope is in the fact that when you got brothers like you and brothers like Prop and brothers like Brother John and myself seeing the same thing together, we can vision and we can reimagine things being differently. And that can inspire us to continue to put forth the effort to make a better reality. So that's the hope that I have. there are people that haven't lost hope. There are
Yes.
people that still, that gives me hope. That there are people who haven't lost hope.
Amen. Amen. I have hope in the fact that the Lord God says there are others who have not bowed to Baal.
Amen.
This wraps up another great and fantastic episode of Postulating Solutions with Preachers. Share this with someone else. Subscribe with someone else. I mean, let's get this word out and let people know that we are postulating solutions. Go now and love and serve the Lord. Go in peace, and may the blessings of God Almighty, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you forever and always. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.